Hey, what you're hearing here is actually the sound of the Dorian mode. And in this video and the following four, I'm going to go deeply into what modes are and what we can use them for. Because when I was, discovered modes, I understood nothing. I had no idea what to use them for. And much because of the explanation I got, basically, which is the normal explanation that everybody gets, that a mode is a scale. I should say that with this lesson comes charts, and we got a little jam track exercise video that's really beneficial for you. So you need to go download that. And the way to do that is to sign up for this free course. It's a 5-lesson course. And you go sign up on the website by clicking the link just below here, and every single video, every single lesson has extra material that you can download. So I urge you to do that to get the full experience of what we're doing here, because it's not enough to talk about what modes are. You need to have an experience in your body doing it yourself in order to really get it on the deepest level. And from then on, once you got it, and experience it and do it yourself, then suddenly it's not an issue anymore. You know exactly what it is, what you use it for, and it's just so amazing what you can really do with modes and the understanding of, because this is really the next level from using the pentatonic scale for improvisation. Because the next level is, okay, what other scales can I use for improvising? And the obvious answer is the major/minor scale, that diatonic scale for short, right? But how do I use that? Well, you can use it along with your pentatonic scale, but if you really want to get the most out of it and really create some magic using arpeggios, keyword, then modes is where you want to go. Because modes can also be seen as the theory behind how you use arpeggios for improvising on the highest level. And that's what we're going to go into in this course here. So go sign up right now. You can watch the same video on our website on guitarmastery.net and have the materials right, on the screen as I'm talking about this. In this first video, we're going to just clear up the mess and just talk about what is a mode really. And then in the following 4 videos, you can really go deeply into it and get an experience of what it is and start using it and hearing yourself producing some new sounds right away. So it's important. Click the link. Go watch it. So let's go into it. When I started out, the modes were explained to me as a scale. Listen up now. So we got a C major scale, right? And any major scale. And then we got 7 different modes. We got the mode that you get if you start on the first note of the C major scale or any major scale. That's the Ionian mode. I just played the Ionian mode. Didn't you just play the C major scale? Yes, but that's also the Ionian mode. Okay then. Let's play the Dorian mode, which is the scale I get if I play from the second note and 8 notes up and down. I just play from the D instead of the C. It's the same scale as the C major scale. Same notes. But I'm playing the same scale from the D, the second step. Well, that sounds different. And we call that sound the Dorian mode. But that's not what I was explaining. I was explaining, okay, that scale is now the Dorian scale or the Dorian mode. But isn't that just the same old C major scale? Yes, but because you play it from the D, it's now the Dorian mode. How does that make sense? So if I have a bicycle and I look at it from the side, you call it a bicycle. But I look at it from the other side, it's the same bicycle. You call it a menesendata. Okay, so now it's a bicycle, you turn it around, and now it's a menesendata. How does that make sense? It can make sense, but how's that useful? Okay, let's move on now in the traditional explanation of modes. So if you take the third the third note of the scale and you play 8 notes up and down, then you're playing the Phrygian mode. Oh, cool. How is that useful? Right? Why are we having this discussion even? What a stupid idea. You have 7 different notes, you have one scale, you give it one name, and then you tell me that it has 7 different names depending on what note you start on. And then you're telling me to go home and practice the modes, right? So, and that practice routine is playing the same freaking 7 notes, starting from a point and then returning to it after playing 8 notes up. That is the mere definition of idiotic, right? You look idiotic up in the dictionary, and there's your explanation, right? It's also the explanation or the definition of a waste of time. Sorry to be so frank, but so let's look into what is a mode really. It's the combination of the scale with any of its 7 chords. A mode is, of course, a sound and not a scale. Why would it be a scale? A scale has it's 7 notes. Let's call the 7 notes one thing, and then let's investigate what happens when you start deriving chords from that scale. Because the major scale has 7 different notes, and those 7 different notes, the distance in between them is whole tones and semitones. And a whole tone is just 2 frets. A semitone is just 1 fret, right? So you go, the first 2 notes are a whole tone away. The next 2 notes are a whole tone away, then a semitone, then a whole, then a whole, then a whole, and then a semitone again, up to the root note. Right? The same note, but just 1 octave higher, twice the amount of oscillations, right? So that's kind of a formula, right, of whole tones and semitones. You could put, you could have other formulas of, okay, let's try 2 whole tones, one semitone, then 1 semitone again. You could do your own formula, but the major scale is that formula, right? And then the way we create chords to create a song, and that is in a key, if we wanted to create a song in the key of C major, we would have the C major scale. Those 7 notes would be everything that goes on in that C major song. And then we would have single notes for the melody. And that would all be me playing the C major scale in different order of notes, right? But then the chords, where do they come from? Well, they come from the fact that we take the first note of the C major scale, and then we take every other note from that note. So I take the C. Now I'm forming a chord. I don't take the D, but I go for the E. That's the 3rd note. Then I skip the F, and then I take the G. And that gives me 3 different notes. And they sound really good together because they're so far apart. So that gives me a C major chord. And if I then go to the 2nd note of the C major scale and say, let's form a chord from that note, then I'm just going to take every other note within the scale, the C major scale, until I have 3. I'm going to take the D, that's the first one, not the E, but the F, not the G, but the A. So that gives me a D minor chord, right? So now I have the C major, and I have the D minor chord that I can play. Those are all the same 7 notes. We're just deriving that from the scale. Let's do it again. Let's take the 3rd step in the scale, C, D, E, and let's see, okay, what happens if we take every other note from the E and play those notes together? Take the E, not the F, but the G, not the A, but the B. Gives me an E minor chord. Cool, now we have 3 chords, and I can continue like that until I covered all 7 notes of the C major scale, which would give me the C major chord, the D minor, the E minor, the F major suddenly, the G major, the A minor, and the B diminished, and then the C major again, right? So I got 7 different chords. Okay, so now I can play those chords. I can take the C major, and I can play that in the background, and then play the C major scale on top of it. Right? Cool. And that sound I hear now of the C major chord in the background and me playing the C major scale on top of it is the Ionian sound. It sounds kind of happy, no worries. Right? And I can take the D minor and play a D minor chord, which is just the same notes, not the same notes as the C major, but it's derived from the same 7 notes. If I now play the C major scale on top of that, you hear that? It's more sad. It's not as happy as the C major. Right? It's more jolly. Then I could do the 3rd chord, the E minor chord that I just derived from the same 7 notes, the same scale. And I can play the C major scale on top of that again. Sounds almost Latin, like Middle East. I'm also, playing it in a slightly different way but that's to emphasize the sound of that. See, this scale that you hear here is the same scale. These are the same 7 notes as this sound. Right? This is totally... So we got the same 7 notes. Now, by extracting chords from those 7 notes and then playing the same 7 notes on top of those chords, we get 7 different sounds, and those are the 7 different modes. The first one is Ionian, the other is Dorian, the next is Phrygian, then Lydian, then mixolydian, then Aeolian, and then Locrian. Why can I remember 7 different names like that? I can because it's useful to be able to say what they are, and because I've been using them over and over again. Otherwise, I wouldn't remember it. I don't remember theory that isn't applicable and practical. Trust me. So the only reason why I know these is because they're important. So how can I use this? Well, the last little realization you need to get is that I'm not just playing the C major scale on top of these chords. I'm doing it using a formula where I begin and end my lines on a chord note. So if I'm playing the C major scale in the background, and I'm using the same 7 notes of the C major scale, I'm not just playing random notes. I start on a chord note. This is a note that's also in the background. This is the C. And then I'm walking over to the next note. This is the E. This is also in the chord. And then I'm using the note in between as a passing note. And that gives me a melody. That's what a melody is. A melody is walking from chord note to chord note. And when I do that, where I start and end my lines on a chord note using the other, if I got 3 notes in the chord in the background, then I have 4 notes that are not in the chord. And those I use as passing notes. If I really want to have things be very spicy, I can just... Right? It sounds like I'm playing something else. Right? So, if I have any of the 7 chords playing in the background that are derived from the 7-note scale like that, and I then follow these chord notes, which means the arpeggios, right? And build my melody lines starting and ending on one of the notes in the chord in the background. If I do that, then I can actually improvise like crazy. I can play melodies that sound perfect the first time around because I got a formula and I know the arpeggios. And that's something we're going to talk about because what is an arpeggio? It's just the notes of the chord played separately, right? So instead of playing C major, I play the notes one by one. And then the next question I got once I realized this is that's where it's useful. If I can learn to improvise like that or play solos and use the arpeggio shape and be conscious of them, right? I can create cool lines that actually sound like the mode, like the chord in the background, because I know where the arpeggio notes is within the scale. So I not only have to learn the C major scale or any major scale, the shapes on the fretboard, but I also have to learn the arpeggio shapes within those shapes. And there are 7 different arpeggios. And if you're using the cage shape system, you got 7 different scale shapes, right? And then you got like 7 shapes within that. Because I have to be able to hit the C major chord notes within the first cage shape, and the D minor, and the E minor, and the F major, and these. How do I do that? That's an immense amount of information. And, I have to play it's just right? So I said, how do I do that? How do I create a system for this? And that's what we're going to look at in the next couple of videos. But for now, I need you. So let's just finish that. What is the definition of a mode then? The definition of a mode is how the scale sounds when it's played on top of one of its chords. It's the scale chord combination with the focus on the notes of the chord. Right? And that also means that if I focus on the notes of the chords and the chord isn't even there, then I hear the mode anyway. That's the Ionian mode. The Phrygian mode. Right? I can describe that sound to you even without the chord in the background, because if I play lines that focuses on the notes of the chord and uses the remaining notes in the scale as passing notes, you're going to hear the mode, right? Right? Genius, fantastic. But so that's where the misunderstanding comes in, or the misconception is that when I play the scale from the C and 8 notes up, I do exactly that. I play one line that has a total focus on the notes of the chord C major. When I play the scale from the D and up, I get to focus, or it sounds like I'm focusing on the notes of the chord of D minor. So I go. So the scale is a melody, right? It's a very simple melody, but it's a melody. And when you start on the root of the D and then go up 8 notes and back again, you hear that minor sound because that's how the melody sounds. If I play the same scale from the E, I hear the Phrygian sound. If I play the same scale, the C major scale from the F, I hear the Lydian sound and the right. So that's the whole misconception is that, or the misunderstanding is that it's not a scale for phrygian. Or you can say it is, but it has no use. The only definition that is useful to you is to say a mode is the combination of a scale with any one of its chords. Parentheses, when you focus, when you create your melody lines, you have to focus on the notes of the chord for it to sound like the mode. So it's a scale in any one of its 7 modes, and we create a mode by playing any one of the chords we create by taking one step in the scale and taking every other note, then playing that in the background, and then playing melodies on top. How do we play melodies? By walking from chord note to chord note, using the same freaking scale. That's what creates the 7 different sounds, or moods, or modes, right, of the scale. I hope you get this now. Eureka! Now we have something we can use, because if I have 7 different chords whipping by in the background, what do I need to do? I need to know where the scale notes are and the arpeggio notes, so I can create my melody lines so they fit, right? So I can have the Ionian sound now for a bar, and then I can have the E minor, the Phrygian sound for a bar, right? I can have the Phrygian sound. Ionian. Right? So, genius. Okay. So what we're going to do now is that you're going to go to the jam track video, and I've laid out something because if you look at the modes here and you lay them all out, we got 3 major modes. We got the C major, the F major, and the G major in the key of C. So I got Ionian, Lydian, and mixolydian. And the best way to hear the difference between the 3 major modes, or minor modes, there are also 3 minor modes, and then a Locrian mode, a little extra there, is to play, instead of playing all the modes of the C major scale, then play C Ionian, C Lydian, and C mixolydian, which is 3 different major scales played up against the same C. We're not going to go into that. This is the multi-perspective thing that's also confusing, but we're going to look more into that in the next lesson. So I'm playing a C major here. And then I can play a C Ionian like I did. Right? But I can also play C Lydian. You hear that, how really different that is? But that's also a major mode. It's the fourth step. Right? That's the Lydian. Or I can play C mixolydian. Takes a little bit of while to get used to. But I have to focus on the notes of the C chord. That's the mixolydian sound. I can play C Ionian again. But because it's the same chord in the background, I really get to hear the difference here, right? And I can play C Lydian. Right? The same thing goes for the minor. I can have an A minor chord in the background. I can play the Aeolian mode, which is that's the Aeolian mode. And then I can play the Dorian. And what do we have? We had the Phrygian as well. Right? So we got three different sounds over the same minor chord. In fact, right here, I just played over the C major chord. I played three different major scales in order to play the same C, because C can be the first chord of a C major scale, but it can also be the fourth chord of the G major scale, which then makes me play a Lydian over the C. It can also be the fifth chord of the F major scale, because that's also a major chord. And now your brain goes, what? I'm confused, but you won't be in the next video about multi-perspective, so you really get into this. But for now, just use the charts on the screen in the video that you can download right below this. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, you can't see the video. So go download that right now and then start having the experience. Even though you don't completely understand what goes on with the multi-perspective modes and all of that, then just get the feeling of playing three different modes over the same chord, all right? You don't get a choice when you're playing, when you improvise. It's not like, okay, I can just choose different modes. When I got a C major chord there, and then let me improvise over that using three different modes. That's not how it works. But because you have a context that C is in, and that context is the C major scale or the G major scale or whatever the context is, right? That chord is in. And that's what determines the mode you use. But you need to get the feeling of playing three different modes and the experience of what that really means and how little difference there is to the modes and how much that means in the sound. So go download that video now, and if you go register on the page for the free course and download the video on the course page, and then I'll send you an email as a reminder of the second lesson tomorrow. See you there. For now, just put this into action right now.